Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Grossman Files. We got a great one for you today. Welcome, everybody, on this Sunday morning, November, I don't even know what day it is, 17th, 16th, I have no freaking clue. All I know is Monday to Friday nowadays. So, yeah, we're back here in Van Cortlandt. About to hit you up with some Son of Sam comedy, because that's what these people are to me, comedy. They think that I actually care about what they say about me. They're debunking my work and assorted stuff. But before we begin, I just want to say what's going on. Say hi to all y'all in the chat. What's going on? Dave Moth, Near Gutters Past, Dana Whitmire's Rotting Brain. A few times I tried trolling her. She made a whole post out of my comment. Oh yeah, we'll get into that idiot in a little while. So yeah, today's not just going to be about Dana Whitmire's Rotting Brain, an absolutely embarrassing post on Twitter. But we're also going to talk about some other things as well. Son of Sam related, and thoughts and musings that I have. All sorts of fun stuff like that. So I hope you're doing all well out there on this Sunday morning. Hope you had a chance to check out my live stream yesterday with the one, the only, the great Mike Lorenzo, Detective First Grade, retired Yonkers Police Department, who has been a great friend and staunch ally for years now in this endeavor called Son of Sam. And like many of us who've been part of this, he too came into this thinking that maybe there was something to Maury Terry's story. And like any intelligent person, changed their mind once the new information came in, new information made available only through the power of this video series that you're watching right now. Without the Grossman files, we'd all be sitting around, except for Near Gutters Path, because he knew what was up from the start, or close to, or way before I did. But we'd all be sitting around talking about Billy the Artist being real. We'd be talking about Vinny and Danny as if they were accurate and reliable prison sources. We'd be still bandying about the idiotic notion that Brother John had anything true to say. The guy was a freaking liar. You could tell just in his body language. And of course, we'd be talking about Mr. Real Estate still, as if that was real. Of course, Mr. Real Estate will be something that we talk about today. Who's out there? Victoria and Brian, Dave Moth, and we got 17 people watching. I'm sure Dana Whitmire's Rotting Brain is seething right now watching Manny Grossman of the Grossman PR empire talking about her when I've been ignoring her, well, for a better part of a year and a half now. Because to her credit, the last show she did on me was an idiotic, lie-filled show about the Netflix documentary that she must have had some inside information on, although she got it all wrong. Still wonder who told it to her. It had to come from Carl and that whole nexus around Carl Denaro. Because unlike me and many people who were in it, we weren't sworn to secrecy, but we were asked to keep it on the down low. I actually did. I didn't tell too many people. People that I told very close to me and who never would have said anything to Dana Whitmire, his rotting brain. So it's been an eventful week in the lunatic fringe of the Son of Sam community. And as I'm back here in New York region, getting back into the swing of things with the Son of Sam saga and story, well, quite frankly, there's not much to really say. I mean, we've covered everything pretty much over the years. So now we're just coasting and having some fun. It's a hobby of mine. Oh, how can you have a hobby as a serial killer? Get off your high horses. Everybody who's watching this now is interested in Son of Sam. You can call it a hobby, an interest, whatever you want to call it. It's not like I actually want to go out and shoot people in parked cars through windows, which was his main MO. Only, one of a couple MOs that he had. But yeah, so that's basically it. We're walking around in Van Cortlandt. So the grifters are just mad you exposed their entire grift. Oh yeah. Lorenzo, Mr. Real Estate is really Trump. I did see orange rouge on a rock in the eagle's nest. Yeah, it's so dumb. So yeah, it's been an eventful week in the fringe lunatic community of the Son of Sam world. We have the perennial lunatic, Jonathan Mitchell, still writing about the dogs of Wicker Street. Now he's extended it back into 1925 with Harry Einhorn of 22 Wicker Street owning a German Shepherd. As if that has any significance, anything at all in the world. Oh, it's German Shepherd bit somebody in 1925 on Wicker Street. Therefore, please make the connection to 1976, David Berkowitz. Again, you want to be taken seriously. We need to actually be discussing facts, not like a dog that bit somebody in 1925. And he's out there going crazy. Got Eric Halati emailing me. Manny, the paranoid schizophrenic Jonathan Mitchell is threatening people. Yeah, and so call the cops. What do you want me to do about that? And then, of course, we have the incredibly entertaining, totally unself-aware, absolutely mentally ill Chris Claw of Olathe, Kansas, continually blogging. This week was great. This week she added 2 new characters to the mix, Odin and Yggdrasil. So she's talking about the Borelli letter having significance with goetic. I don't even know. I'm not into this crap. Goetic occultism and occult symbolism. And she's talking about constantly in this latest blog about Odin and Yggdrasil. I tell you, I have no idea who this Yggdrasil is. I was talking about it with someone this morning, and she said, oh yeah, that's a Norse god. But in my world, since I couldn't care less about any of this crap, I have no idea who Yggdrasil is. But I know one thing about Yggdrasil. The dude has nothing whatsoever to do with Son of Sam. And another person who has absolutely nothing to do with Son of Sam, of course, is this mythical character that Maury Terry invented, that we have been calling for many years Mr. Real Estate. So as we look at the chat, as I show you the beautiful fall visage in Van Cortlandt Park, which of course on my shitty camera, without the camera stabilization. And all of you are getting nauseous watching, complaining about my video quality. I get it, I understand. I know. I'm not going out and spending $20,000 like my boy, my old friend, Jason Goodman, on 3 different iPhones and having all sorts of capabilities. What are people saying in the chat? Odin is the 23rd disciple of hell. Near Gutters Path says, oh, we got some good stuff going on. Let me sit down and let me sit down and read these because people are fast and furious in the chat for once, which I like. Let me just address some of the things people are saying before we get into Dana Whitmire's rotting brain. I will watch Near Gutter's Path. I will watch any and all SOS related. Should I even have a custom David Burke figure? Dave Moth, they think Berkowitz is a better person than Manny and they are deranged. Yeah, it's true. Chris Claw will house David Berkowitz and actually has said that he's a better person than Manny. Ralph Dude, my man, Berkey has to be a bit pleased that people are beefing online to defend his honor. Oh, yeah, totally. MJ Mike Lorenzo, DB is somehow given the benefit of the doubt for being truthful, yet has repeatedly lied since his initial confession. Yeah, absolutely. Talking about speaking to his binary nature, Berkey's bi. Victoria and Brian, the kitty, empty vessels always make the most noise. Rima's nature, I love the walks no matter. Hey, thanks. What's up, John James? Near Gutter's Path. 80s bad quality videos, just nostalgia to me. Yeah, Ralph Dude, when people claim to explain how something has a cult symbolism, it's usually an exercise in ad hoc, unfalsifiable reasoning and stretching. Yeah, just like the arguments that people make, Ralph Dude, about Joe Savino was a mobster. His firm worked with the Shah of Iran. So therefore, someone came and shot his wife in 11 o'clock, Son of Sam style. In a Son of Sam style attack. 3 months before Donna Lauria. Less than 2 miles away from Donna Lauria. And of course, done right after he left angrily from the Cassara home. Oh, he wasn't angry. Yeah, bullshit. For those of you who missed my live stream with Lorenzo yesterday, which was so much fun, Mike. It was great seeing you again after being in Puerto Rico for 4 months. Had a blast as always. And so yeah, I had mentioned in that live stream, and I like doing these saying things repetitively because you might not have seen yesterday's live stream, not you, Mike, but people in the crowd, about how Berkowitz's Savino interrogation, the first thing he said when the Cassara's name was brought up, it was instantaneous. He said it faster than Chris Clark can write Yggdrasil. He said, they lied to me. And of course, the great Lorenzo, being a ace detective, in my opinion, he doesn't call himself that. But the guy's mind is first rate. He immediately, without even thinking, said he's still angry at them. So to those who think that Berkowitz couldn't have been angry on April 8th when he picked up his stuff, didn't say anything to the Cassaras, which is a sign, of course, of anger, passive aggressiveness, right? He's still angry 55 years later, yo. So of course he was angry on April 8th. And on April 9th, he was probably really seething because we don't know where he was staying that week before he moved into Pine Street, as I catch my breath going up the hill. He himself said he thinks he might have been staying in his car on Orchard Beach. That was another thing that he said in 2024. So anyway, forget where I was going, but yeah, Mr. Real Estate. So I don't have much to say about Dana Whitmire, who calls herself Rotting Jules. She's another idiot who doesn't use their real name. Oh, my real name is, I'm gonna be in so much danger if you knew my name. Yeah, you know the only person who's been in danger? Not really, but who's actually had material things done to them in the real world is presently constituted. You're looking at him. Carl Denaro and his crew tried to sabotage me with Netflix. I'm constantly getting emails. But for the Wig Factory, I mean, this is all comedy to me. It's just a joke. I don't take it seriously. But if you're online, you should use your real name. It just gives you more credibility. Like, why are you going to call yourself Rotting Jewels and then pretend that you're so important to the world? Her latest thing is that Candace Owens and her crew got her video struck. Candace Owens has no idea you exist. You're insignificant. I mean, I'm insignificant. I'm not saying that I'm some great, highly important dude. We're all insignificant, but at least use your real name. So, of course, this woman who calls herself Rotting Jewels and whose real name is Dana Whitmire. Oh, he used my name. She's been a thorn in my side for 2 years, really. She was on William Ramsey's show a couple years ago, the troglodyte, mouth-breathing William Ramsey, who she said, oh, Manny cursed at me in a message or something. I don't curse at people in messages. I just don't do that. It's not my style. Find one message to anybody that I've sent with a curse in it. So I politely sent her a message through Twitter saying, "What? I don't even know who you are. It's the first time I heard of you. I never sent you a message cursing at you. What are you talking about?" And it was polite, and it just didn't penetrate. 25 text messages on Twitter later. The next thing I know, she's posting it all publicly for people to see, when I thought I was just having a private conversation with somebody. And that's highly unethical to do. So right there, I knew this was a mentally ill person, severely ill. And but she became like the hot thing in Son of Sam, because she became the in the Son of Sam world, because for us who follow this crap, again, it's like 20 of us, right? It's ridiculous. No one would know who this girl is if I didn't even talk about her. But then I became like this major process member to her. And all of a sudden I was being controlled by the process. She called me a process anchor baby. And because my father was a executive at a public relations company who just happened to represent the police union and the fire union and the sanitation union, all of a sudden I became his minion in the Grossman PR empire. So as a sensitive person, see, Mike Lorenzo doesn't get into this stuff. And he's much smarter than me in that regard. He doesn't get into this back and forth. But I do it just because it's fun and I enjoy the comedic aspect of it. Let's see what people are saying. Craig's explanation of the occult symbolism at Samuel Untermeyer's grave from an early episode of the show is a perfect example of made up occult lore. Yeah, you know, it's funny because, again, that was all Journey of Discovery. Who wrote that? Ralph Dude. At the time, we took that crap seriously. He translated from the Greek, talking about breathless females. And we were all into it. And again, this was like, you got to think of the early, and I know Ralph Dude, that you know what's up. But anybody who might be new to me, who might have heard that one time I was a Terry fan who changed his mind because I was pressured, you got to understand that we were just searching for answers back then, grasping at straws and realizing that, like, we were discovering new things about this. And it was all, as it turned out, it was all bullshit until we got the police files and the Abrahamson letters, which are the most truthful Berkowitz has ever been, and explain fully his motivations, means, ways, everything about how he committed the Son of Sam crimes, which was a valuable resource in finally coming around. So then when Eric Galati went all ex-girlfriend on me because I didn't return a phone call, and then put out all the Maury Terry files that I had since 2021, and he gave a copy to Dana. And in a way, I'm glad he did that, because that forced me to totally break the NDA, the toothless and with zero legal merit NDA that I signed, which I actually did keep basically secret from the public. for a couple of years, even though I shared the stuff like everybody who signed that NDA shared stuff. Oh, I'm the only one that's guilty of that. Okay. So in a way, I'm glad that Eric did that, because it gave me the input, because he gave it to Dana, who was going to then interpret all the Maury Terry files for everybody, which of course she's never done since she got them, because she's not smart enough to. She doesn't know the case. And it's never been done by anybody except for us. I'll give Neo credit. He did, because he agrees that Berkowitz was a lone shooter. So even though he's acted atrociously in my chat yesterday and really embarrassed himself, sadly, it's kind of tragic what happened to that guy, because I used to talk him up greatly back in the day when we were working together. And to see him mentally break down like he has over the last couple of years, it's actually sad. But anyway, I forget what I was saying. But yeah, so she threatened to expose and release the files. So that basically gave me the push to put them out myself and take the chance. And then we really started to learn stuff, right? Because a lot more things came out. The witness list, we got a lot of, we got Billy the artist's name and stuff like that. So anyway, I'm going far afield here. Let's see what people are saying. Good walk. Mike said good walk, only one complaint. Can you take off the make Mike look fat filter? That's funny. I was in the chat calling bullshit on his Greek mythology knowledge in that episode. Ralph Dude says, yeah, you know, Dave Moss says people still keep hounding Zeman to enforce that NDA. Yeah, I'm not going to speak for Zeman, but I can almost guarantee that dude is just watching, if he's watching this at all, which I highly doubt, he's just laughing at everyone, including me. And he just doesn't give a shit about any of this stuff. He's been on to other things. I mean, Zeman's a nice guy, I suppose. We've had our mainly downs, some ups. He doesn't like me. He thinks I'm a charlatan and I have an agenda and that I'm like Maury Terry. He doesn't understand what I do. And he also doesn't understand the Son of Sam case. And I told him to his face. I said, yo, you're a tourist. You don't know the ins and outs of this case. You did your documentary and that was it. And your documentary wasn't about the case. It was about Maury Terry's bullshit, which to his credit, Zeman, he actually did show that Maury Terry was an absolute drunkard, buffoon, lunatic living in his parents' attic on Voss Avenue across from Sacred Heart, blaming his entire high school class for murders that took place in 1964. I mean, it was ridiculous. And then using marginalized child rapists like Alex Verone as Vinny and Danny, and people like Billy the Artist, who I love, don't get me wrong, but Billy the Artist was a marginalized drug user who totally trolled us with comic book characters. And that brings us back to Dana Rotting Brain, who calls herself Rotting Jewels. I don't know why you're not using your real name, Dana Whitmire. You're not that important. Nobody cares. You have a very low IQ audience who clearly is low IQ, because the horseshit you put out is, and then the way you try to defend yourself is just so transparently, ridiculously bad that anybody who can't see through it immediately is just a moron, plain and simple. So she puts out this tweet that I saw, and I know I shouldn't be talking about this, but I think people enjoy when sometimes I go off the rails a little bit. I'll read it to you. I don't know if it's verbatim. I just kind of wrote it really quickly. But it's the thumbnail of this video, so you can open up another window and read along with me. So it's about these Maury Terry files, which I scanned, by the way. Those are my scans. I remember specifically in the Maury Terry files. Okay, just going to give you some backstory here on the Maury Terry files. So Zeman invited me, Denaro, Jess Delano, and Maximilian Heusler up to his place in Connecticut to scan away And we went up there and we spent about 5 hours up there. Would have been longer if Jess Delano's boyfriend hadn't been constantly whinging about, let's go, let's leave this place already. And Carl did his, we each scanned separately. Carl used his iPhone. I think Max might have used his iPhone. Jess's batteries ran out. I mean, this is like the moment that you've been waiting for your entire life as a Son of Sam researcher. And you don't come up with full batteries and a charger on your cell phone. I mean, Jess is a nice girl, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it, but I was kind of shocked when she only got 12 documents before her batteries ran out. Meanwhile, I brought up my entire computer. I bought a $150 scanner, brought up my entire setup, monitor, computer, mainframe, scanner. And the files that I did, I put in a folder called MT shit, just meaning MT's stuff. I just use shit as a name to, when I did it, I thought it was the Holy Grail. I didn't think it was actually shit. And you can see my scans are the ones where you can see like a table around the ones, and that's the ones that Dana Whitmire, aka Rotting Brain, used in this tweet about how we're gatekeeping stuff. And the tweet in question was about a character named James Donovan, who for some inexplicable reason, Maury Terry named as Mr. Real Estate. Now, let's just get one thing straight. Mr. Real Estate didn't exist. This character that Maury Terry invented was literally a Gimel Ishbi from Conan the Barbarian. But for some reason, three names came about in the subsequent years. One was the spiritually sick Nobel Prize winner, Carlton B. Godsdusek. One was James Donovan. No, I'm sorry, we'll say. The next one was Alfred Hunt Howell of Riverdale, who was killed by he wasn't killed by my friend Nikolai, my childhood friend Nikolai. Nikolai was actually set up by a corrupt detective, Frank Vigiano, who had been convicted of 31 false confessions. And when Eric Galati and I spoke to his mother, without knowing about Vigiano's false confession conviction, she said, "Oh yeah, the detective who interrogated him, Nikolai had like a father fetish for him, and he gave him Big Macs, and Nikolai, his confession was coerced." So Alfred Hunt Howell was named as Mr. Real Estate. And then, of course, some mythical, weird character named James Donovan in Westchester, a real estate guy. And God knows how this guy's name came about. But given the fact that he's lumped in with two other people that have nothing whatsoever to do with this story, you can safely assume that whoever this James Donovan is had nothing whatsoever to do with Son of Sam. Just like Yggdrasil and Odin had nothing to do with Son of Sam. People are still talking about this as if it's real. Peter said, forgot. Good old Carlton. No, I'm not in Untermeyer, Peter. I'm in Van Cortlandt. So the tweet says the following of this Dana Rotting Brain. And it's written so arrogantly, as if she's the only person who in the world who knows that this is the absolute 100% truth, and that everything she writes is golden and she could never make a mistake. Wouldn't you know it? Mr. Real Estate was arrested for raping a kid in 1979. It's almost like Maury Terry didn't lie about the children, and the children didn't lie about the cult and their activities. Imagine that with a question mark. I mean, so smug in your self-righteousness. You idiot. That's not even the same James Donovan. If you look at the effing papers that she put up there, the ones that I scanned, they're of a James Donovan who was in Clinton Correctional Facility, and he lived in Queens. Do you know how common the name Jimmy Donovan is in New York City? I mean, are you out of your mind? And then she then writes that she just got these papers yesterday. And how come if she just got them yesterday that none of us ever exposed this information before? That James Donovan, the Mr. Real Estate, was a child rapist. Okay, well, first of all, we saw those files the day we were scanning them, and me and Max and Jess talked about them, and we all agreed right off the bat that they did not talk about, and this is when we believed that this guy Donovan was Mr. Real Estate. We all agreed that it was not the same guy. So these files just never were significant in any way, shape, or form. So I write back a tweet replying to this saying, "Hello, those are the files I scanned. Again, I got nothing to hide. I've been wanting to talk about these files for years. In a way, I owe Dana Rotting Brain a debt of gratitude for being so arrogant about putting them out, that it gave me the impetus to put them out and do all the work that we've done." I said, that's not the same Donovan. And so, and first of all, Mr. Real Estate doesn't even exist. So how could a guy who doesn't exist be a child rapist in 1979? It's like, it's just logic that you have to follow A to B to C. If Mr. Real Estate doesn't exist because it was Gimel Ishbi from Conan the Barbarian, how could a guy named Donovan be Mr. Real Estate? And then how are you gonna put out a day after you get these files, you troglodytic moral reprobate? You don't even do any research or fact checking. You just put this shit out in an emotional state and think that somehow or other you broke the case. When you put out files of a guy who wasn't even the James Donovan of Westchester that Maury was talking about, you absolute asshat. And then instead of just taking the L, I don't know why I thought she would. She never has before. She's done entire shows about the Grossman PR empire, where because my dad did public relations for the Police Benevolent Association. It wasn't even the NYPD. It was the Uniformed Officers Association. If anything, they were against the NYPD. And again, lack of research, lack of knowledge of New York, lack of any sort of ethics in journalism. So I said, that's not the right guy. So instead of just taking the L and saying, oh shit, let me delete the tweet, that was dumb of me. Shouldn't have put that out, you're right. I didn't read these documents before getting in an emotional state, thinking that I broke the case. Bias, what's the word? Bias, confirmation bias. She instead talks about my bombed Netflix performance and my receding hairline. First of all, bombed Netflix performance. Almost 10 million people saw that. And second of all, I never said that I was a star for that. I've never once crowed about Netflix. I'm glad it happened. I'm happy that I'm in it. I'm happy that I did it. I'd rather have that under my belt than not have it under my belt. But show me where I've ever said that I'm going to be a star now. I'm the king because I was in a Netflix documentary. It just doesn't exist. And then my receding hairline, like you're going to come back, you're talking about my receding hairline. I mean, that's just patently absurd. I'm not saying that I have the thickest head of hair in the world, but my hairline has never receded in my entire life. I've had this hairline ever since I'm 17 years old. And I could hardly think, given my hairstyle, that talking about me being bald is an argument to make. It's just, Dana, you did good work on Paul Berger Hart. I gotta give you credit for that. I'm happy you did that. By the way, Paul is the guy who hooked me up with Radical Media, so you might want to do a show on that. He hates my guts, by the way. He's constantly he's hanging out with Chris Claw now, the lunatic who talks about Odin and Yggdrasil. He's constantly talking about the non-existent 32 and Wendy and the IBI records, even though Detective Klein spoke to somebody who was related to the owner of IBI, and specifically remembers, as I go up this hill, that Berkowitz, his father said the Berkowitz worked the 12 to 8 shift. He remembers that specifically. In other words, Berkowitz wasn't alibied for Wendy. You think we're so stupid that we would put out this story about Wendy without checking into IBI? And NYPD has a lot more pull than the idiot off his rocker Mike and the absolute fool Parker Fate and the moral reprobate Dana Rotting Brains has in getting information. We knew he was alibied since day one. You really think we're that dumb? So I suggest that if you're on Twitter, you find her, you can see her handle in the thumbnail here, and find this thread. One person in her comment section, Child of Truth, I think that's Joe Colacini, I'm not sure. I'm never good with figuring out who fake people with false names are on YouTube or Twitter. But he wrote the same thing I wrote. He goes, that's not the same Donovan. And she writes back to him, you clearly can't read. So now we're supposed to interpret some hidden meaning in your tweet when clearly the original tweet said Mr. Real Estate was busted raping kids. And then you show a different James Donovan with papers that I scanned that show that he lived in Queens and he was in Clinton Correctional Facility. You think that if this rich real estate guy from Westchester was busted for child rape and was in Clinton Correctional Facility, there wouldn't be a record of that? Oh, God. Just take the L. Admit you fucked up. It's not so bad. And the reason why I have an issue with this is because what this idiot does is then she manipulates her fans who are not that bright into thinking that somehow I'm the problem and that I'm putting out false information when she's the one doing it. And what it does is, again, cements in the minds of people that Maury Terry had integrity. I mean, I know there's nothing I can really do about this, but as a Son of Sam researcher and as the person who debunked Maury Terry in the modern world, in the modern era, I take these things personally. I'm sorry, that's just a personality quirk. So I'm going to talk about them when people do this. I don't like to see misinformation go out in such a egregious manner. And yeah, I know that many of you are probably writing in the chat. I'm going to head over to the actually, let me sit on this rock and read what people are saying and respond to it. Excuse me. So that's my thoughts on Dana. Just take the L. Don't start talking about my receding hairline and my bombed Netflix performance that was number 4 in America and number 3 in America and number 4 in England for a week. Don't bring that up. All right, so I hate to tell you, Manny, but I paid to watch Maury's doc. I don't know better, says Gabriella. That's cool. I saw it for free on BitChute. Peter says, any Roy Cohn sightings? Yes. The ghost of Roy Cohn is over there. And he's hanging out with Tiny Lentini and the spiritually sick Nobel Prize winner Carlton B. Koch-Dusek. And there goes Odin. And there's Yggdrasil. And I think that the the ghost of the James Donovan from Queens might be hanging out with them too. As if Carlton V. Gojdusek and Roy Cohn are ever gonna in the real world hang out with Tiny Lentini, who, by the way, wanted, just like Alex Varone, Maury's Vinny and Danny. I would like for people to acknowledge this about Alex Varone. That would be nice. See, part of intellectual debate and pursuit is accepting truths, putting them into the lexicon, and then moving on from there as an established base. I didn't make up, and this was something that Lorenzo found. I didn't make up the existence of Alex Varone. I didn't make up his crimes. And I didn't make up his name on the post card and the letter in the return address addressed to Maury Terry from a correctional facility. I didn't make that up. And then I didn't make up the letters that Alex Varone wrote, which were then reprinted as from Vinny and Danny in The Ultimate Evil. And I also didn't make up the fact that he went to Sacred Heart High School when Maury Terry went to Sacred Heart High School. I have a 3-part series on this that you can watch if you're truly interested. Again, we need to establish base facts and move on from there. Mr. Real Estate didn't exist. I didn't make up Billy the Artist character in The Ultimate Evil. I wasn't there when Billy the Artist lied to Maury Terry for $2,000 that Maury Terry paid him, and for dental work given to Billy the Artist's mother. I wasn't there for that. I wasn't there when Billy drew the comics out of Marvel comic books. I wasn't there when Marvel Comics printed Conan the Barbarian number 38 and invented the character of Gimel Ishbi and Amidus, who were Maria and Moloch. But once those things are found, if you're a true intellectual, honest person, you have to add that to your lexicon and then move forward from there. Even Neo has accepted Billy the Artist, so that should tell you something. He doesn't give me credit for it. He credits Gary for it, was part of the story for sure. But no one would have ever found Billy the Artist if I hadn't been the one that scanned the folder at Josh Siemens' house that said The Artist Untermeyer with Tony Alvigi's name on it. All right, let's see what other people are saying. For some reason I can't. Oh, okay, here we go. Mr. Moff said, even if it were him, kitty diddling doesn't equal satanistic cult activity. True. With Mr. Real Estate, if you really want to prove this, Dana, first prove that your friend Donovan from Mr. Real Estate, she says it's actually Mrs. Real Estate now. I mean, the things that this girl makes up are ridiculously stupid. So now it's Helen Donovan, who Mrs. Real Estate. That's who she's saying was the true person. Prove that they were in Untermeyer Park doing these things and with David Berkowitz. You have to prove that first. I'm giving you a roadmap as a person who's actually gotten things done in this true crime space. I'm giving you the roadmap to actually prove your point. If you want to say that Mr. Real Estate was real and doing these things, then you have to prove that he did. And then if you want to say that he raped kids, you can't use the arrest report from another James Donovan, a very common name in New York. Take the L. Just admit you got it wrong. Oh, we can't read. That's her thing. Like, we can't read. Somehow she meant something else when she said that Donovan was raping kids, Mr. Real Estate. Ralph, dude, obscure SOS internet beef. Koza Morera, who gives a fuck? All right, well, Koza, don't watch. Fun to engage with the cult theory lovers for comedy purposes, Dave Moss says, but it'll drive you nuts reasoning with them. Yeah, tell me about it. Captain's blog, a cold wind whispered, join the stream, so here I am. Gabriella, who says, what point or victim did law enforcement realize they were dealing with a serial killer? In Son of Sam, it was kind of hinting around since Lumino Damasi, because they connected it with Denaro, but it really ramped up after Voskorician. All right, so that's really all I have to say about this person, because you could go and read the thread, and it's just an exercise in futility. I try to like address the fact that she got the wrong person. She named the wrong person, and then it becomes a thing about my bombed Netflix performance and my receding hairline, and then it goes into how I can't read because she was actually trying to make another point. Okay, whatever. So if you want to see that, you could go to the Twitter thread. So I want to talk about, oh, Neil's going to get angry at me, but I saw that they're going to do a, oh no, so just getting back to Dana real quick. Yo, your work on Paul Berger was good. You actually got that right. I was shocked when I found out that this guy who I was calling Paul Hart, his name was Paul Berger. And it was kind of interesting seeing the connections he had to occultists and propaganda magazines, or some stupid zine in the 80s. Probably meant nothing, actually. There were a million zines in the 80s and 90s. It's part of the culture of youth back then. I know that you very late millennials, Dana, don't understand what life was like back then for us people in our 50s. But I don't really find it too concerning that Paul Berger was hanging out with his brother, Fred Berger, in some magazine. It doesn't really prove anything. But it showed that he uses a fake name. So then it makes me curious, like, why are people using fake names? I never used a fake name. I did all my work under my real name. So as we sit here where Karen Wallstrom was murdered by the 14-year-olds, Vault Hill, we'll see Ralph Dude's comment, the occult true crime community online is rife with assertions of fact that don't stand up to scrutiny. Yeah, so do more work like that, Dana. Like, fact check your stuff, make sure that it's real before you put it out there. Occasionally, you know, a broken clock will be right twice a day. At least you're not like Chris Claw writing about Odin and Yggdrasil as if that has anything to do. I mean, you guys got to read the latest Claw blog. She invented a squiggly line in one of the Son of Sam letters, and then used numerology and gematria to prove something. I mean, yo, Chris, you're friends with your boy Berkowitz. Just ask him if he meant that crap. See what he says. Can't see how it's possible in any way, shape, or form in the real world as presently constituted. But in either case, Dana, do more work like you did on Paul Berger Hart, and try to stay out of Son of Sam, because you don't know the case. Here's what I'll just say, and I'll quote my man Dolomite, Rudy Ray Moore, on this one. Dana, you're walking around here with your nose all snotty. If you don't know what the game's all about, you better ask somebody. All right? So even though you've said many nasty things about me and lies to your audience about the Grossman PR empire, I find it hilarious, actually. The inordinate amount of attention you give to some dude from the Bronx who just happened to have a moderately popular video series that like hardly anyone watches anymore. But you know, at least I'll help you out if you have any questions, you know, like, because I want to see this topic go forward in a good way. But you know, talking about a Donovan from Queens, I mean, that's Carl Denaro level stuff. Oh, I made fun of Carl Denaro. It's bad. Well, getting shot by David Berkowitz doesn't confer angelic nature upon your status. I mean, you know, the guy's a bad guy. Tried to get me sabotaged from Netflix. I know it was you, Carl, because there's no other way that those people could have found out about it and called the right people to try to get me taken away. There's just no other way. I know who it originated from, Carl. How you doing? So I was talking about Neo and Rena. So they're about to embark on talking about the Gilroy deposition. Good. This is good stuff. I haven't even gotten to the Gilroy deposition. Although I did prepare a show, and now Rena, the idiot's going to say, oh, he prepared a show, so telepathically I'm supposed to know that. No, I'll just make it clear. You're not supposed to know that I prepared a show on the Gilroy documents a year and a half ago. And I shit-canned it because it was actually too dense and too boring. But it is an interesting document, and I'm glad that you guys are going to talk about it. Here's my suggestion. First, keep out the stuff about me in it, lying, because it just doesn't make you look good. And especially after Neo's performance in my live stream yesterday with Mike Lorenzo, it was actually shameful. I got several messages afterwards talking about that. And I feel bad for the guy, really. I think this Son of Sam, people say Son of Sam went to my head and it turned me nuts and all that stuff. No, this is just a hobby I have that I do amongst many hobbies and vocations that I enjoy. I just don't do those publicly, so you don't know about it. But I was successful at this, unlike Neo. So of course I'm into doing this. But the Gilroy deposition, I'm going to watch that show because I want to see what you come up with. I mean, it's pretty obvious. You guys know the case. The Gilroy deposition, for those of you who don't know, was a pivotal part of Maury Terry's book, where it proved a few things. It proved that Berkowitz knew John Carr and Michael Carr. It proved that they were all in a cult together and that they were Satan and devil worshippers. So I'm going to give you some suggestions, Rena and Neo. First, show documentation. Show the Gilroy documents. Zoom in so people could read them. It's always better when you do that. When Berkowitz talks about Michael Carr being a devil worshiper, I think I've actually might have shown this in my thing about the apartment scrawls. When you show that part, make sure that you reference that he was also calling Craig Glassman a devil worshiper and Sam Carr a devil worshiper on his apartment walls. But he wrote on his apartment walls that Craig Glassman worships the devil and has power over me. So make sure you compare that with him calling Mike Carr a devil worshiper in the Gilroy files, because it establishes a pattern that he was just calling everybody out there devil worshippers. Make sure that you show the part about the Casaras and the fact that he says repeatedly, and Maury Terry left this out of the book in selective editing. Make sure that you write about how he was very emphatic about not knowing John Carr and Michael Carr and the Carr family in the Gilroy files. What's up, Helmet? So make sure you throw that in there. And again, just to step up your production value a little bit, you're using StreamYard or Restream or whatever you're using now. You have the ability to show files and to zoom in. Make sure you zoom in, because otherwise the audience can't read what you're writing and can't follow. And do comparisons. Compare to the apartment scrawls and the walls of his apartment. But yeah, generally the Gilroy deposition is an interesting document. It's on the People vs. David Berkowitz and the Maury Terry files. It was part of the stuff that we got. I believe that Carl Denaro actually had either scanned those. See, Carl got a lot of files from Josh that I believe that Josh had already scanned. I'm not sure about it. But they had a specific file names, and those files ended up all on People vs. David Berkowitz as the original file dump. So the People vs. David Berkowitz was essentially a laundering site for the Maury Terry files right from day one. The FOIA stuff that you read on there, I believe it's fake. I don't think they FOIA'd anything. I believe those are all Maury Terry files. And in either case, the only way I have to prove it is because the file names are the same. The ones that I had since 2021 are the exact same file names that you can download. They didn't even change the names. They're the exact same files you can download at the People vs. David Berkowitz. So the Gilroy deposition was, I believe, one that Carl had gotten and we've had since 2021. And yeah, they're important documents to establish that Berkowitz didn't know the cars. The cars were not really devil worshippers. That was just part of Berkowitz's kink, to just accuse everybody of being a devil worshipper. There's some interesting stuff in there about the Cassaras. But overall, the Gilroy deposition, and I didn't do a show on it because, again, it's too dense, a little boring, hard to follow if you're not a fan of the Ultimate Evil. Not super important in the grand scheme of things. Oh, another example of Maurice Terry selectively editing. Ho-hum. You know, it's 2025 going on 2026. I already have over 100 shows about that. So it's like kind of old news at this point. But no one's done it. So Rena and Neo, have at it. Have a good time doing that. I'll be watching that show to see how well you do. And I'm happy you're doing a show like that rather than sitting there and perseverating about me and my success, because you're not going to change that. And with your 62 subscribers and your 100 views or 200 views per video, you're going nowhere. Nobody cares, right? So do your stuff for the heads, have fun. I'm glad you're doing it, right? Somebody's got to do that type of stuff. And at least it's better than Dana's rotting brain talking about James Donovan was busted raping kids, so therefore Maury Terry was truthful. It wasn't the same James Donovan, and Maury Terry wasn't truthful. And it's certainly better than Chris Claw's lunacy about Odin and Yggdrasil. As if that has anything whatsoever to do with the story. And much better than Jonathan Mitchell, the paranoid schizophrenic, talking about German Shepherd bites from 1925. And some actor named Beaver who did a play, so therefore he was in the Son of Sam cult. I mean, this shit makes no sense. It's entertaining to watch, but it's not advancing anything. So good on Rena and Neo for planning to do a show on the Gilroy deposition. If you need some advice, shoot me an email. I'll let you know how to do it in such a way that it's more interesting for the crowd. And that's basically it. Let's see what people are saying. Yggdrasil. I think we pretty much hit all of the stuff in the chat. I don't see Neo here whinging out in a very unhinged manner. And basically, I want to just say to people again about Son of Sam that you really need to change the way you think about these crimes. You can't think of them as isolated to April of 1976 to August of 1977. You have to realize that there's a holistic nature to David Berkowitz and that his crimes are holistic in nature. In other words, you can take them as far back as his childhood when he was, as Lorenzo astutely pointed out, throwing things off his roof at people in a very way that foreshadowed his potential involvement as the Bronx Sniper. You can't take Berkowitz out of being the Bronx Sniper. You just can't. We can't say with certainty that he was a Bronx Sniper. And we're certainly going to investigate this and try to use any contact that we have to get information on these sets of crimes. I don't think we're going to have much luck, personally, but you never know. But you certainly can't take Berkowitz out of that. Even Chris Claw, the lunatic from Olathe, Kansas, said that I bring up interesting points about the Bronx Sniper. I think actually Chris is softening to me a little bit. I notice in her recent blogs that she's not quite as mean to me as she has been in the past. So maybe she's turning into a Grossman fan due to my charm and my hairline, my receding hairline. So yeah, you have to look at Son of Sam as something that was David Berkowitz. He was Son of Sam since the day he was born, and everything he did could be categorized in that same leitmotif as Son of Sam. His setting of fires as a buff when he was a young kid, his arsons later on, his sneaking around his apartment, breaking his mother's lipstick and killing his mother's parakeet, his turning up small acts of petty vandalism, stuff like that. And then later on, it just ramped up. I believe his Bronx sniper attacks, of course, which I call the Son of Sam before Son of Sam, because instead of going citywide, I believe David Berkowitz targeted the area that he was extremely familiar with in the Bronx, the whole area of 169th and Grant Avenue, just a mere 2 blocks away from his synagogue, which he knew like the back of his hand, and also just a mere 9 to 10 blocks away from his father's hardware, where he was in fact working that summer before he up and left to the army. You have to include, of course, the stabbings, or stabbing. Only one was really forensically established. You have to add in, of course, all his proper Son of Sam crimes, right? The ones categorized by the mainstream as Son of Sam, starting with Wendy Savino in April of '76, and ending, of course, with the Moskowitz Violante shooting. And God knows who else was shot during that period that we have no idea, possibly with other guns. Again, holistic thinking on Son of Sam is the only way to go. You can't just think of him as a 44 killer. And then, of course, his Wicker Street and Warburton Avenue crimes towards the Nettos and the Carr families, and also the Casaras, who he terrorized with letters. This dude loved sending things out into the ether, whether they be Molotov cocktails, letters, calls, and yes, even shots from firearms. So I think that's basically it. I'll check out the Dave Moss says, have you got a show on the Bronx Sniper coming? We're working on it. Again, that's all going to happen more towards December, once I'm more situated in my personal life, and also once I have my equipment back from Puerto Rico, which is still on a boat on the Atlantic Ocean, inching its way back from the sunny shores of the eastern seaboard of the United States, where I will then have to grab them, open up the box, charge the batteries, and then go and do the shows. But Mike and I are already talking about ideas and planning things out between us, and it's going to stay between us until we're ready to go public. But and then, of course, I have something happening in December, which I've been teasing, which is going to be amazing, actually. But that's all I got to wait for the good equipment to come back, because as much as I love these YouTube lives, let's just admit the quality is shit. I personally like that about it, but I can understand why people don't, especially since I've gotten all y'all spoiled brats used to the amazing cinematic quality of the Grossman files. And also my live streams, which were replete and filled with accurate documentation, unlike Dana of Rotting Brain, who shows different people and claims they're Mr. Real Estate. On our live streams, we've already, and this is a suggestion, of course, again, to Rena and Neo, show more stuff. Like, I understand why you don't show yourselves on the video screen, but show more documentation and zoom in. I'm gonna watch out for that. See if you've taken my advice, because it's good advice, even though you hate me. I did something right in this, because unlike you guys, I'm actually successful in the Son of Sam space. So let's see what people say. My daughter lived in Maui and it took a couple months to get her things. Well, Maui's Maui's much farther than Rico. Danny sent his belongings from PR to New York on the back of a tortoise. Yo, when you use a cheaper shipping company, things just take a while. When I went down to Puerto Rico, actually, I put my stuff on a boat, the same shipping company, and my car took 2 months to get there. And then, of course, the Puerto Rican government is so inept, so backwards. It took me another 3 weeks to get the damn car registered. And what a nightmare Puerto Rican government is. One of the reasons why I didn't stay there long term, one of the several reasons I chose not to stay there long term. 10 blackouts and losing your water for a week when it's 90 degrees out. Twice that happened. Was not really very pleasant experiences, and of course with no end in sight. So it's good to be back in the, well, what do we call this? Is this the first world, guys? I don't know. I think this is an advanced second world. But shit, China is more advanced than us in terms of infrastructure. Dubai and all these places out there, they're kicking our ass. You know why? Because they're not spending money on wars and propagandizing their population into supporting foreign entanglements like we are constantly. Imagine all the money spent on the Afghanistan and Iraq war, which literally did nothing to improve anything in this world. Imagine that was spent on water filtration, maglev trains from that we could get from city center to city center across the country in 5 hours, like a plane. New York to Chicago in 3 hours. Imagine we had all that stuff. The highest end water, bringing water from Canada down into New York on modern pipes. Imagine we spent all those trillions on that, improving our roads and infrastructures, putting actual concrete instead of asphalt like they do in Europe. Just a million things that like you and I could come up with on the back of a napkin, which would materially improve the lives of America. But yet we keep voting for these people who are criminals. I mean, you know, the people who did COVID are still in charge. This guy Cheney was a 9/11 criminal, was allowed to die a free man. It's really just an indictment on where we are as a people in the United States, and it ain't good. And I don't actually see it getting any better anytime soon. We're too degraded as a population. In a way, I'm part of it because I'm sitting here part of an inane Twitter beef with some idiot. When I could be out writing a piece of music or coming up with something better. So we're all works in progress, and we're all trying to evolve as better people. So all I want to say is thank you for watching today's show, everyone. Check out that Twitter thread if you want to see just like what I'm up against in this world of just absolute utter stupidity, recalcitrance, self-righteousness, getting something totally wrong and then saying that I didn't understand the meaning of it. It's maddening. And definitely check out the blogs on Yggdrasil and Rena and Neo when you do your Gilroy deposition. I'll be watching, and I'm wishing you the best on that. I hope you guys do a good show. Take my suggestions. I'm telling you, it'll increase the quality of your show greatly. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. We'll talk later.